Hey guys, so I wanted to do a little part two to the Durham's Rock Hard Water Putty product review I did the other day. So I've got my Durhams right here, and I'm just finishing up the last few casts. The walls are done on the Hirst art set, and so are the accessories. But I've got to do one more of this one, and then a couple more of this one today. So that's what I'm gonna go ahead and do a cast with this to kind of show you how Durham's works. So what you're really gonna need to do this. For one mold is you're gonna need some sort of disposable cup, because unlike the Merlin's Magic, where I was using that large measuring cup, which is sitting over on the shelf over there, this stuff does not come off easy, and this stuff it dries pretty hard, and the way we mix it is going to make it pretty thick. So first thing you're going to do is you're going to take your Durhams. What you want to use is about a 1/4 measuring cup for this. This will give you roughly the right consistency you need. You could do it a little thinner if you wanted to, but I do it roughly 3 cups of Durhams to 1 cup of water. And this will fill up one mold very nicely. You could probably stretch it to 2 molds, depending on what they are. So let's just dig down in here. And we're gonna do this particular one with just the 3 cups. I may even be able to fill a little bit of the other side. And then you get your water, which I've got right here in this. Makes it really easy to just scoop it down in and get my exact measurements. I'm going to actually be figuring out exact measurements like this for the Merlin's Magic when I get some more. It will not be on this project though, so it'll be in the future when I decide to get some more Hirst arts molds, because I do want to get some more for my own personal use. So then you mix it up really, really well. It says, I believe you want to mix it for at least a couple minutes. So we're just gonna, but for me, I usually don't mix it up for a couple minutes. I'll mix it up really well until it's not too lumpy anymore. Trying to stay in the camera here so you guys can see how it's working. But yeah, the 1/4 cup to 3/4 Durham makes it a very thick consistency, as you can see. And it actually gets to the point, you notice I mix with the end of the spoon, because then that way you get a really, really good mixture. At least that's my opinion. Because otherwise the stuff will just stick to the actual spoon surface, and it doesn't mix up with the water as well. So we got this mixed up fairly well, I believe. It's yeah, pretty mixed up. So then I'll just do like that. And the one thing about the Durhams is it is going to get all over you. It's just the nature of this stuff. Now, if you do not have a shake table, you're going to want to hit the table while you do this to get the bubbles out. But I have a shake table, so there you're going to hear this vibration. And you want to pour it in. Now this is not like the Merlin's Magic. This goes in really thick. And it actually does not work very well if you don't pour it in directly. The Merlin's Magic, that's one of the differences I've found. This stuff, you want to pour it directly into the mold. So we're going to do that. And that's the other thing, is you're going to have to pretty much scoop it in at this consistency. So we've got it scooped in. Something else I have also found is that it takes 30 minutes for it to set, good enough to scrape. But I honestly, I've noticed that it grabs really hard. So what we're going to do with this is I'm going to just try this out real quick. This just occurred to me to try this. And those bubbles are done. But we're going to go ahead and just lightly scrape the top as it is right now. Because the Durhams, the water doesn't flow to the top like the Merlin's Magic, I knew that was going to work perfectly like that. It's good to scrape pretty much as soon as you pour. I actually noticed that the bottoms of the ones I was scraping after the 30 minutes were in pretty rough condition, and I was actually worried about some of them breaking. I think I did have to toss out one whole mold. So that was something I had thought about doing, and you just saw it on the video here. It works. You can pretty much scrape it perfect, so it's good to go. And here's the other cool thing. This excess, I'm just gonna grab this and I'm just gonna slap it right on the mold there, on that second mold. Now I should have had the shake table on when we did that, but since we are, since I am pretty much doing a second run with that, I'm gonna go ahead and mix up another batch of it right here. So I'm wiping off my container to put some more Durhams into this. Do a little bit less because, you know, we do have a little excess in there. So, still roughly the same amount, and then I'll just put a little less water in there. And I'm just eyeballing this for the most part. But, should work just the same. So, let's go ahead and mix this up while that shakes through. But as you can see, and also I'm using the wet water method as well, which is the jet dry method mixed with, I'm going to need a little bit more Durhams, because this is a little too thin. So, toss in a little spoonful of Durhams. This is what, okay, don't do this like what I'm doing now. You do not want to eyeball it too well. Now I've gotten the consistency of Durhams to where I know where it's going to break, but when you're first starting to do this, especially after I work with the Merlin's Magic, I've really learned what a good consistency is for breakage with the different substances. But you do not want to eyeball this on every cast. This particular one will be okay. So let's go ahead and get that in there. Get that one in there. We'll just move that around a little bit. That's the thing I really like about this stuff, where it mixes so thick. It's really easy to make sure you get the maximum amount of usage for it. The Merlin's Magic, I found that it was it really dries. It actually dries harder than the Durhams, but it does have this tendency to you kind of misjudge how much you're going to need. Like, getting the numbers on it right was just a little bit difficult at times. Alright, now we just toss those because those containers and spoons are pretty much dead at this point. And we're just going to go ahead and scrape this as well. Like I said, do this gently. And I can even notice where this one didn't quite get filled all the way, so I'm going to stop and scrape the other direction so as to put the excess into it, thus filling it. Now doing it this way means that you pretty much do not have to scrape it again. You don't have to worry about it. You don't have to come back to it later and do this. And I find that to be awesome. It cuts down the time on your casts so much in terms of like how much prep you have to do. So you can pour the cast and then just walk away and then come back later when it's done. Now, of course, the only downside is ultimately it does take a lot longer for it to set. I have found actually that this thick of a mixture, you want to leave it for at least 2, maybe 3 hours. And that is really the worst thing about the Durhams. It is, I think everything else about the Durhams is, and I'm just scraping this to make sure I got the excess and got it completely flat. Everything else about the Durhams I like better than the Merlin's Magic, to be honest, except for the set time. The set time is the thing that really kills it, unfortunately. I mean, if you're wanting to do these in any sort of speed, then you don't want to go with Durhams because of the fact that the Durhams will take a while to set. Now, if you don't really have a need, like if you're just going to do like one casting a day and then just make them up, like let's say you're just going to do it like when you get ready to go to bed or something, that's actually the perfect time to do it too. Now, don't quote me on this because I'm not sure how long the Hirst molds hold up over time, like especially if you leave the molds in overnight. I think I remember that they hold up pretty good. I have left the molds to cure for like several hours, like 4 or 5 hours. I remember the other day when I went to go get some tools for the studio, which I'll be doing an update on all those new tools later. when I went to go get some tools, I was gone for something like 4 or 5 hours before I came back to pop the casts. And I have not noticed any difference in the actual molds, like no degradation or anything. So I'm assuming that it will not impact them in an extremely fast long term. So once you've actually done all your casts and everything, the Durhams will come out looking like this, which, as you can see, other than the coloration, comes out very very similar. And I'm actually going to do something here. We're just going to do a stress test here. So this is a spare piece. Just get that in the camera. Okay, yeah. Gotta make sure my hand's in the camera, guys. All right, so this is a spare piece. When I finished all the sidewalls, I had a couple of pieces left over from some miscasts. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna take this one, and then we're gonna take another spare piece. Let's see if I can find 2 of them of the same one. Let's see here. So, all right, these are roughly the same. I mean, they have that same little niche right here. So I'm gonna put this up there. So you see that little corner piece right there. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put some pressure on these with my hands to see if I can snap that off. So let's go ahead and, okay. So that snapped off relatively easy and relatively clean. As we can see, I can glue that back in very easy. And just give you an up close of this. So that's Merlin's Magic. Now, I didn't have to put too much pressure on that. I had to put a little bit of pressure on it, so it did take a little bit of force. So now we have an idea of how durable Merlin's Magic is. Let's try the same thing, pretty much the exact same type of spot on this one. So let's go ahead and do that. All right, I'm gonna say that they take the same amount of pressure to snap, which tells me that the durability of the Durhams is going to be on par with the Merlin's Magic. The only downside, as you can see, is that the snap was not as clean. Now that could be down to many factors, but it's kind of got a dusty chalkiness. This piece has been cured for some time, so both of these are fully cured. So, that being said though, it looks like even though it is snapped a little rougher than the Merlin's Magic piece, you could probably still glue this in and still use it pretty good, which I will probably do at some point in the future. But I'm going to set these to the side. So, I would say, other than drying time, that the Durhams is superior for your average casting job, especially because of the shipping costs. It's really the shipping costs at the end of the day that make the Merlin's Magic so unappealing. Because if you're going to do large projects like what I'm doing here, you know, like full huge sets, you're going to need a lot of Merlin's Magic. And unless you have some way of mitigating those shipping costs, the Merlin's Magic just becomes extremely expensive. The Durhams, though, I mean, it's still the same price, but if you can pick this stuff up at Home Depot, like around the corner from your house, then, you know, all of a sudden your shipping cost goes to, you know, a couple miles of gas versus, what, like 30 or 40 bucks, depending on how big of a bag you get of the Merlin's Magic from, there's only something like 4 or 5 distributors in the country, I think, that actually sell it. So, that being said, I hope you enjoyed this little second part 2 review to the Durham's Rock Hard Water Putty. I think it's an incredibly useful tool. I think it's very usable for doing Hirst Arts casts with, and it makes a good substitute. It's especially good if you don't want to get a crap ton of Merlin's Magic, because I think like the minimum amount, don't quote me on this, but I think like one of the minimum amounts you can get is something like 10 or 25 pounds worth of Merlin's Magic, depending on the distributor. I could be wrong. But that being said, you can get 4 pounds of this Durham's at Home Depot. It's extremely available, and that's one of the big pluses on it. So anyway, thanks for watching this video. Leave any comments below. If you have some experience with other materials doing Hirst Arts casting, let me know. I would love to try out more of them in the future and kind of get a comparison going of all the different materials.